So what really started this was I've learned very early on in my career in tourism that it is the companies with the most data and the most knowledge about their visitors that win in a competitive marketplace. And COVID certainly and all the government restrictions have certainly changed the marketplace in many ways, and therefore has made it actually more competitive as well. So one of the things I started to look for a good year ago, was actually a bit more than a year ago, was actually to find a grant that would pay for such a data analysis program that Rove Marketing develops for major tourism destinations around the world. And I've been on their website and have been drooling over the stuff that they actually could do for quite some time before we finally found the grants in the late spring. And so Rove Marketing has done an incredible job to roll this out in a 90 frame or in a 45-day time frame, basically, because that was the timeline we had under the grant. So without further ado, I'm just going to turn it over to Phil, and I'm sure he's going to wow you away.
Well, I'll do my best, Hugo. Thanks for the very kind words as well. And good morning, everyone. Let me just share my screen here. Looks like someone has to enable me to share. It says host disabled participant screen sharing. So I don't know who the host is, but if you could allow me to share my screen, that'd be great.
That'd be Veronica.
There we go. Okay. Let me know when you can see my screen. You should see Foothills, so the Destination Insights background. Hopefully that's coming through. Is everyone seeing the screen now?
Yeah, we're good.
Perfect. Okay. So yeah, welcome everybody, and again, thanks for allowing us the opportunity to present the insights that for the Foothills region. If you have any questions throughout, please feel free to interrupt. We want this to be a collaborative session, and as Hugo mentioned, we'll go through the example. We'll go through the various dashboards and the insights that are served up, and where applicable, we'll reference some of the stakeholders that are on the line today, so you can get a sense for how this platform will be able to support you in your business and helping you uncover some of the insights that'll hopefully help you not only successfully navigate the recovery from COVID, but also help you to thrive in this and post-COVID as well. So what we're seeing right here, we're logging into, this is the Destination Insights platform, and we're seeing obviously for Foothills. And what we're going to be walking you through today is all the insights that's served up through mobile location data. So for those that were on previous meetings and calls, we worked with Hugo and the Foothills Tourism to identify a series of obviously regions, sub-regions, and municipalities, and various points of interest or tourism businesses, if you wish, to include in this particular assessment. So 7 municipalities, 273 points of interest were identified as part of this particular mobile assessment. And through that, over the course of going back to 2018, we assessed a little over 1.6 million different tourist mobile devices that entered one of either the region, municipalities, or various points of interest. And so we use that mobile location data, and this is collected from your phones and the various apps that you use, weather apps, map apps, and invariably, if you've probably seen it pop up on your phone numerous times. Would you like to be able to share your location with this particular app? So that's the data we're using ultimately to understand where travelers are coming from, what they're doing in destination, how long they're staying at a certain point of interest, etc. And so that's where, and this is all privacy compliant data. So there's no individual personally identifiable information attached to this. But at the end of the day, it really allows the destination to, again, better understand how travelers are where they're coming from and how they're visiting your particular destination. And one of the reasons why we went back as far as 2018 was to look at some of those pre-COVID years as well. So you can get a better sense of, how traveler behaviors may have changed since COVID, comparing back to pre-COVID years, et cetera. So the purpose today is to walk you through a series of the dashboards focusing on whether the macro, the Foothills region, the municipality level, as well as the insights that are provided for the points of interest for the various tourism businesses, attractions, accommodations, et cetera. Upon logging into the platform, you're presented with kind of this particular landing page, and I believe a number of these dashboards will ultimately be accessible through Foothills industry website over time. But for today's demonstration, we're walking you through the platform itself. So what you'll ultimately end up seeing on the Foothills website will the dashboards will be identical. Just the environment in which you access the dashboards will obviously be a little bit different. All right, so there's three different main dashboard areas if you want to think it in that context. One is for the Foothills region itself, so that's an understanding of who are the travelers visiting the macro Foothills region. Also, there's a series of dashboards for municipality level insights. So again, more specific insights for those 7 different municipalities and how travelers, again, where they come from and how long they stay, et cetera. And then there's a series of dashboards specifically for the tourism businesses or points of interest. And we'll walk you through each one of these today and then highlighting specific examples as we go. All right, so let's dive in. We'll start at the macro Foothills region because I think that probably makes the most sense to start with, to give the broader context. So this provides an overview again of the tourists entering the Foothills region. And the data goes back to 2018. So right now we're looking at historical data, but we can also just look at this year's data as well if we want to just get an update. And the dashboards allow you to filter any particular date range you want or any particular traveler segments. So if you want to look, whether you're looking at your dashboard for a point of interest municipality, there's many different ways to slice and dice the data to get the answers to the questions you're looking for. Whether you want to look at a particular time period, you want to look at certain travelers, maybe just want to look at Calgary travelers, or you want to look at Canadian travelers or US travelers, et cetera. You'll have full control to be able to slice and dice the data the way you want. And we'll certainly highlight some of those here today. So when we look at the macro Foothills tourism region, we see some top line typical key performance indicators that destinations typically look at, from average length of stay to percentage of tourists staying overnight, average distance traveled to the region, et cetera. And so as we scroll down, one of the first things we surface up for all the different levels of dashboards is just to give you a sense of the sample size. So these are the total volume of mobile devices sampled during that particular time period. So in this 2021 year to date, so basically January 1st to I believe the data was last updated for this at the end of September. There was 266,000, a little over 266,000 tourist mobile devices that were sampled. As part of this process in preparing the data, we weed out or we eliminate the day-to-day interactions of people. So people that are living in the region or are going to the grocery store or are going to drop their kids off, all that particular data is weeded out. So we're only looking at tourist-specific data as opposed to the residents doing their day-to-day things. So we get a particular sample and we've identified a series of audience segments or traveler segments to help contextualize the data a bit more. So regional tourists, those are the people that reside within the Foothills region. Calgary tourists reside within Calgary. Alberta tourists would be those that live outside of the Foothills region in Calgary, but reside within Alberta, and then Canadian, US, and international. I'll show you in some other dashboards, there's ways of drilling down even more granularly into where travelers come from, down to the postal or zip code level. So you can get very, very granular in terms of taking a look at your specific travelers, depending on where they're coming from. And so these charts just show over time just the overall sample size. Again, it's a proxy for total visitation, but it can't be directly equated. Recognizing that, for example, when international travelers visit and when you probably travel to other countries, you probably don't have your cell phone and your cell service running on a regular basis. So it is a good proxy for total visitation, but it can't be taken at 100% face value. So this particular dashboard, it again, it provides some top line insights into, again, average length of stay. We can break that down. So we see here for the Foothills region for this particular, for 2021, we're seeing the average length of stay is 2 days, but again, it's broken down. It varies a bit by traveler segment, as you would expect. And not unsurprisingly, the people that are traveling from further away are staying longer, which is what you would expect to see. And then we provide a trend breakdown for all of the insights as well. So you can see over time how that's performing. And then we provide greater levels of granularity for each of the particular metrics. So you can have a better understanding of, in this particular case, average length of stay, the number of people staying certain days. So we can see that the vast majority of people are staying 1 day, but there is a breakdown beyond that as well. And for each of the insights, we also provide a variance. So what this particular chart is showing us within the context of average length of stay is year to date compared to previous years. So we look at August, for example, we'll see the average length of stay across all of the audience segments of 1.9 days compared to previous years. So we'll see compared to 1 year ago, people are 8.3% of travelers are staying longer than they were a year ago. So, and then we can go back as 2 years as well. So each of the nature of the insights allows you to very easily compare to what degree your travelers may have been changing, whether it be average length of stay, visit duration, where they're coming from, et cetera. And again, this can be drilled down even further. So if I want to see variance in average length of stay, I just want to see variance for Alberta tourists. I can just quickly click on Alberta tourists and all the charts will update. And now I get it'll just take a second and there we go. Now I'm looking at just Alberta tourists, for example. So the dashboards themselves are meant to be highly interactive and allow you to look at the various audience segments you're looking for. Some of the other dashboards for the Foothills region, we'll go through some of the other ones, is what's quite popular for most of our destinations is popular times to visit. So in this context, it's popular times to visit the region. So we'll see here in the region for our overall audience segments, we obviously not unsurprising, June, July, and August are the biggest. But maybe we just want to look at Canadian long-haul tourists. And we see in this context, again, not too unsurprising, July and August are the busy months. And again, we get our variance to see how that particular times of the month may have changed. We see in July, this particular year, a lot more people visited from long-haul Canada in July than in previous years, for example. We also break down popular times to visit by the popular arrival days of the week and then also departure days when people are coming and going, as well as down to the hour. So you can get a real sense, and not unsurprising, Canadian tourists arriving to the Foothills region, not unsurprising, Saturdays and Sundays are the busier days, which you would fully expect. And again, this will apply to each level that we'll go through. Again, whether you're a town or whether you're a particular tourist attraction, you'll be able to get the same level of insights for your business and or municipality. Then we also have popular arrival dates over time. Pretty useful if you want to look historically back at maybe you had a festival or event in your particular region or community and wanted to see if there was a net increase in visitation from, again, in this context, Canada, but you may want to look at a specific country. So in this case, I want to look at country of origin. I want to see, maybe I want to look at quickly United States. and I want to break that down even further. Okay, I'm going to break down United States, and I want to go even more granular. I want to look at a particular state, or even within that, a particular city within. So you can get very, very granular to help you understand in this context the popular times of certain tourist segments to visit your particular destination or business. Looking at the, again, still within the context of the tourism region, these are the popular municipalities visited to the region, and a breakdown by that. And again, each one of these dashboards, you can filter by segments or country of origin, et cetera. So you can get a better sense of, again, using the US as the example before. If we wanted to look at what are the popular communities to visit from people from the United States, we'd very quickly see that Okotoks and Nanton and High River topped the charts from the people from the United States, for example. And we also track, in this particular context, the average length of stay in each municipality. And this becomes really useful at the municipal level, but also even at the point of interest level, when you want to think about things such as itinerary planning or packaging strategy or even promotion strategy. If you know how long tourists are spending at particular types of tourism attractions, you can start developing day packages and 2-day packages a whole lot more easily when you have that particular set of information. So in this, again, still within the regional context, these are the top points of interest visited. And in this particular context, you can, again, sort by or filter by traveler origin, where they come from. Or if I want to drill down into particular attraction or particular sectors or subsectors, say I just want to look specifically at some of the accommodations, and we can get a sense over that, or I want to look specifically at the hotels and inns and break that down even further. And so we can get a sense, again, overall, the tourists and what accommodations they most frequently visited. Again, you can slice and dice this by, in this particular context, I want to look at this, but I just want to look at people from Calgary for conversation's sake. And then you can drill that down even further. So looks like people from Calgary to the Foothills region, the Sandman Hotel and Suites in South Calgary is the most popular, which makes sense. All right. The other big question most tourism destinations or tourism business ask are ultimately, where are my travelers coming from? This dashboard really helps answer that particular question. So it provides multiple levels of insights in terms of where travelers are coming from the very macro at the country level all the way down to the postal code, FSA, zip code level. So in this particular context, again, like all the other dashboards, you click and you can drill into it to get as granular as you want. So in this particular context, we want to look at maybe some Canadian travelers. And we want to see, maybe we're looking at it more, we want to see, who are Alberta travelers that are coming. So we'll break that down even further. We'll look at Alberta and we see, you can break down of the census divisions of where the travelers are coming from. But maybe I want to drill down even further. And I want to look at the Calgary metropolitan area and get a really further breakdown into, and we see from the Calgary metropolitan area, the bulk of our travelers are coming from Calgary, Rocky County, Airdrie, and Cochrane. And this is displayed even in more granular detail down to the FSA and postal code level, where you can zoom in and actually get very, very granular down to the particular postal codes and FSAs of where your travelers are coming from. This is typically used for a lot of on your promotions efforts. So if you're looking at targeting specific regions through your advertising, then this particular type of information becomes super useful. So we see 2 particular postal code regions in Calgary where the bulk of your visitors are coming from. And so there's 2 different levels of geographic information. Common evening and weekend location. This is where the traveler lives and sleeps. And then we also provide, and it becomes a little bit more useful, it's super granular, the common daytime location. Think of this as where the traveler works. So in some cases, there's some nuances in where you'd want to use the common daytime location if you were targeting, if you want to better understand where some of your travelers are working during the day versus where they live. So we provide both levels of granularity, so you have that at your disposal. And then for the purpose of today, we chose just to show the US demographic information, but there'll also be Canadian demographic as well. We didn't want to overwhelm you guys today, but again, providing top line information so you can better understand who your travelers are. So we look at things as household income, personal income, age, ethnicity, things like that. And again, super, super granular. So in this particular context, we see visitors to the Foothills region, tourist median per capita income, again, in US salary be 28,000, whereas the median household income is a little shy of 60. But again, you can drill down. So when we take a look at some of the target markets that Alberta, Travel Alberta has traditionally targeted, California as being one of those target markets, we can start to see which counties within this specific California are generating the highest potential spending travelers. So we see particular counties from Sonoma and or Alameda are, again, visitors to the Foothills region are typically potentially a higher yield traveler that are coming from those particular regions. So again, becomes super useful for targeting for your potential travelers. And again, that level of granularity is available through all the different metrics that the demographic metrics. And again, looking at things such as education level and race, all broken down. And again, you can sort by all different parts. You can look at US as an entire country, or you can drill down very, very specifically to a particular county and you'll get a breakdown. So in this particular case, San Luis, we see a breakdown, not unsurprising, a vast majority of white, but then there's also 16% of tourists from that particular county were Hispanic. So again, largely used just to get a bit more holistic understanding of who your travelers are for not only advertising targeting, but also in some cases when you're thinking about your promotions efforts and the types of content you're putting in front of them, it can be super useful to have this information at your fingertips. So let's jump over and quickly look at some of the municipality and points of interest. You'll see a lot of very similar looking dashboards. And again, they're contextually, they're the same, but obviously now within the context of the municipality, they're focusing on the municipalities that were assessed within the region and not the region itself. So in this particular context, let's take a look at, we'll just pull up Okotoks. I just want to look at this data within Okotoks. And then we can quickly get a sense right away. Once it filters, we see the average length of stay of all tourists to Okotoks is 2.3 days, percent of tourists staying overnight, etc. And again, a lot of the very similar dashboards, but now it's contextualized specifically for the town of Okotoks. So in this particular case, if I was the town of Okotoks, I might want to look at overall some key metrics from Okotoks. But you know what? I just want to look at all my Alberta tourists for conversation's sake. So now I can quickly get a sense. Obviously, some of the US demographic data wouldn't apply to that, but now I can start to get a further breakdown of just my Alberta travelers, for example. Or if I want to drill down even further within, I want to look within Alberta, I just want to look at, I don't know, people from Canmore for conversation's sake. You can get extremely granular in terms of how you want to look at your travelers coming from, where they're coming from. And again, similar to the region level dashboards, again, popular times to visit. So again, I'll pull up Okotoks here, for example, and we can see the popular months of the year and popular arrival days and popular departure days and popular arrival time and departure time, etc. And again, not unsurprising in terms of, it looks like a popular arrival time to the region looks like Saturday between 12 and 2 o'clock. Seems to be the most popular times a week for people to arrive. And then departure time, it looks like a lot of people are leaving at 3 o'clock on Saturday. But again, super useful, especially when you start taking a look at things a little bit more granular. So if I was the town of Okotoks and I had a marketing strategy targeting, we'll say Calgarians, for example. So I just want to look at people from Calgary tourists. You can start to get a real intricate sense of, when they're arriving and when they're leaving. So if time of day or day of week matters, super useful information to help you tailor your marketing and promotions efforts, or even some of your visiting servicing efforts as well, knowing when the bulk of travelers are going to be in your particular destination. Again, still within the context of municipality, this is just to get a highlight of, what other municipalities are visited, the points of interest within my municipality as well. So again, we'll maybe pick a different example here. I want to look at High River in this particular context. These are all the busiest, these are the points of interest that are or the tourism businesses, if you wish, that are most commonly visited in my particular municipality, and all the levels of detail are provided that. And again, you can drill down as much as you want. If I want to look at specific attractions only, etc. Looks like the Highwood Golf Course, great golf course. So I'm not surprised that's highly visited. So, so that, again, all the same level of granular insights are available at the municipality and point of interest level as the region level. We're just looking at it through the lens right now of visitors to High River. And then maybe
can you maybe show the same thing for Okotoks as well, since Okotoks is
sure, absolutely
present here. Also, yesterday I was really blown away where, if you look at Calgary and the visitors from Calgary, how granular you can go in terms of, where in Calgary they come from, for instance.
Yeah. So yeah, we see visitors to Okotoks from Calgary tourists. Again, this is all time, but we can look at, maybe just want to look at this particular year. We see Big Sky Barbecue Pit appears to be very popular with Calgarians. So, and they are spending, we just wanted to take a look at, so yeah, we're getting details of the most popular visitation and the average time spent. So not unsurprising here, so if we want to look at specifically at Big Sky Barbecue Pit, we'll see that the average time spent is 1.3 hours from Calgarians at the Big Sky Barbecue Pit, which great food. Not surprised that people are spending a fair bit of time there. Again, we look at the tourist origin perspective. Again, we'll use the Okotoks example again. This will really help paint the picture of ultimately where my travelers are coming from globally. And again, you can drill down as granular as you want. Again, we'll use the Calgary example. I always want to take a look at people from Alberta, and we'll drill down into Calgary, and we can get a very specific breakdown of people from Calgary, Airdrie, and surrounding Calgary regions, and then be able to zoom in directly at the postal code level. So we see the T3J postal code and T3K postal code, and T4B are the bulk of, I guess that's Airdrie, but I guess these two, T3J and T3K are where the bulk of your travelers are coming from within Calgary itself. A bit of rinse and repeat, but I'll just use a couple examples from the points of interest. So these set of dashboards are really meant for tourism business owners, for example, or even a municipality or a region that wants to get very granular insights on visitation patterns to a particular tourism business. So we'll pick, who do we want here? We got Eau Claire Distillery on the phone today. So you just want to take a look at that particular context. And so we'll see visitors to the points of interest. Average dwell time looks like people are there on average for 1.7 hours, and the average distance traveled is 37 kilometers. And we drill down a little bit further, and we can see, we'll look at average dwell time. Looks like regional tourists are spending a bit more time there than maybe some of the Calgary or Alberta tourists. And then average distance traveled, not unsurprising. Regional tourists are traveling on average 16 kilometers, but your Calgary tourists are on average 40 kilometers. And we can see a bit of a trend over time, which hasn't changed a lot. And so on and so forth. So you can get, again, very, very granular information across all the key metrics. Again, take a look at popular times to visit, and we'll do Eau Claire again. July looks like one of the busier months, and then we can see down to popular arrival days of the week. Not unsurprising, Friday, Saturday, Sunday are more popular, and even down specific times of the day when people are arriving. Again, we could segment down very, very granular. I just want to look at popular times when Calgary tourists are arriving to Eau Claire Distillery, and then we'll see that Sundays appear to be the day. Saturdays and Sundays primarily. Again, not surprising. Popular arrival time looks like around noon is when the bulk of the people arrive. and there's some certain dates where looks like going back to 2019, but there's certain dates throughout the year where appear to be more popular when people arrive. Probably coincide with an event or a release of a spirit, for example. Wouldn't be surprised to see that type of thing. And again, very, very similar tourist origin. Again, I want to know, again, we'll use our Eau Claire example, but it could be, I mean, we'll pick who else is here on the phone today. We'll use Granary Road, for example. Again, I want to see tourist origin of people to Granary Road and get a very breakdown. We see the bulk of the travelers, no, not unsurprising, are from Canada, but even as you get more granular, looking at, again, that regional audience, which has become especially important in the last few years, we can start to get a breakdown. Yeah, 88% of our travelers are coming from the Calgary metropolitan area, and within that, 83% of those are from Calgary, 7.7% are from Foothills County. And again, the same level of granularity. It looks like this particular postal code, T3H, during this time period has generated the bulk of the travelers to Granary Road from Calgary. And again, US demographics, Canadian demographics will be exactly the same. I want to look at who are my travelers from the US and what do they look like. And we can see the bulk of the, it looks like our higher spending travelers are coming from, not unsurprising, Northwest, but it looks like Texas. There's only eight tourists from Texas in the last that were sampled. So, but it looks like they're a little bit higher, potentially higher spending as well. Hugo, is there anything specifically you want me to dive into, or maybe the group has any questions?
I think we want to look at some data of the Millerville racetrack and sentimental journeys as well.
Okay. There we go. So we'll scroll down here. Good amount of devices sampled, so that's good. Yeah, it looks like June, July, and August are your busier months. And in terms of average length of stay or dwell time for hours, we're looking at your tourists are staying on average 7.6 hours. And we're seeing some of the regional tourists, looks like they're staying perhaps a little bit longer than your Calgary tourists. And we get a breakdown again across all your demographics from different in terms of dwell time. It looks like, yeah, the bulk of your tourists are spending somewhere between 0.5 and 3 hours. Not unsurprising, but there are some that are spending a fair bit more time as well. Obviously, being a campground, you're going to have some that are staying longer. We look at average distance traveled. We see pretty consistent for our Calgary travelers, or you could probably have your Calgary tourists are about 31 kilometers, but your Alberta tourists have varied a little bit over the years. Let's just take a look at the last year. Yeah, looks pretty consistent. It looks like you've had looks like in maybe some of looks like in especially August and July, you're seeing, yeah, about a radius of about 100 kilometers in which your Alberta travelers are willing to travel. So again, super useful information. You're thinking about radial advertising in terms of, again, my Alberta audience, how far are they willing to travel to come to my destination. So super useful information for that. In terms of popular times to visit, let's also take a look at Ooh, it looks like November has been popular over time. Let's look in this last year to date. Again, not unsurprising. Summer months a bit more popular. Looks like Saturdays. Saturdays are the day. Not unsurprising. It's not unsurprising to see that. And then popular arrival time of day. Looks like you get, again, probably some people going potentially to the market earlier in the morning, but then we see some departure times as well. And then in terms of popular dates, it looks like some of the months here, it looks like going into some of the summer months, we see popular arrival dates in June, not unsurprising, Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays, but obviously something was going on Wednesdays and in June, especially the 9th and 16th, where you saw an increase in arrivals. And then not unsurprising, we're seeing a lot in the summer months. It looks like obviously Saturdays, but you're also seeing some spikes in some other days as well.
If I can just inject here for a minute, Bill. So Melanie, what that means is you can actually look for all of your events, whether it's the fair or the rodeo or the races or honing to whatever is going on at the racetrack, and really pin down as to where people come from, how far do they come, do they come from. You get all that information specifically for that event, which will allow you in the future to market and basically get a much better return on your marketing dollars for that.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah,
it's amazing.
Yeah, great insights, Hugo. And again, in the same context, again, I want to be able to drill down very, very specifically down to the postal code level where my visitors are coming from. So we see in this context, yeah, the TOL postal code appears to be the most popular in and around Calgary. Again, you can drill down as granular as you want. Again, Hugo, who is the other one we want to look at?
Sentimental Journeys in Nanton.
Okay. There we go. All right. So we're looking at this current year. So let's. So yeah, again, average dwell time. I guess people are spending a fair bit of time, not unsurprisingly, hanging out. We see in terms of the total volume of mobile devices sampled, we see a pretty consistent spread in terms of regional Calgary. Obviously, the volume has increased a bit over the course of the last couple of years. And again, that volume can be not only attributed to potentially increased visitation, but it also could be attributed to more people are using their phones or different apps as well. We see average dwell time. It looks like regional tourists are spending a fair bit more time than at this particular point of interest than some other tourist segments. And then we see a breakdown, and let's go look at popular times to visit, which is always super insightful. Let's go here to. So current year to date, again, not surprising to see a ramp up in the summer months. What we're seeing here is that it looks like year over year, you're getting a fair bit more people that have arrived, which is great to see. Look, you're trending in the right direction. And again, this can't be interpreted directly as total visitation, but the volume, it can be indirectly associated. So it looks like you're seeing some strong growth in your summer months compared to previous years, which is great. So compared to 2 years ago, a 322% increase in, again, the volume of sampled travelers that entered this point of interest. Popular arrival times a day, looks like we're seeing a little bit more of a spread. Let's look at a little bit broader date range. Let's look at all time to see. So here we're seeing, again, not unsurprising, Saturdays and Sundays, and late in the days on Fridays when the bulk of the people are arriving or are leaving, and then arrival should correspond very closely, considering that the average dwell time or duration in this point of interest is a couple hours. So you would expect the time of arrival and time of departure to be pretty close together, which it is. And again,
can we, Phil, for this particular location, can we look at and that's, from Foothills Tourism point of view of interest for me. At the month of November and December and compare that with previous years, specifically 2020 November and December compared to the years prior. The reason I'm asking is we ran a campaign, Christmas in the Foothills, which really was to try and bring Calgary shoppers out to the region last year in November and December. And I'm curious to see if there was any impact from that.
Sure. Did you want to look at it from the macro region perspective, or do you want to drill into a specific?
Actually, I'd like to look at this particular location, because we would expect that with the campaign we ran that, we would have hoped that that location like this store would actually have seen an impact of that campaign.
Sure. And
I'd love to look at it for the region as well.
And sorry, what were the months or the date range?
So November, December, I think we actually ran most of the campaign in December. I'm not sure, correct me if I'm wrong, Veronica. And so compare those 2 months with previous years, so 2020 compares to the previous years.
Okay, just give me a second. So let's go to, Let's go to, what's the best way to do that? Let's so look at November to November 1st to December 31st. Is that fair-ish?
Yeah, that's fair.
Okay, make sure I got the right years. Okay, the sample size was, yeah, it's a little bit small for this particular, but so I'll have to take a look at it. But
Sure.
You're looking at the, so again, you're looking at the year-over-year volume and sample tourists again as a proxy for visitation. It looks like, obviously this is August. Let's look at the previous years. We don't want this as year to date. Let me change.
Well, maybe the sample volume was too small for the one location. Maybe.
Yeah, it might be. Let's just take, well, let's look at macro. Let's look at all points of interest. Again, we can drill down into some specific ones. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. We'll have to update this chart so we can look at that particular. So let's look at. Is there anything particular you want to look at? You want to look at average length of stay or travelers?
I'm just curious to volume of travelers.
Yeah, absolutely. Probably the closest year volume of travelers. So, and again, we'll have to. This is not showing the particular month. So let's. Because this one's by default year to date. So let me just go in and change this to, give me 2 seconds.
You're going behind the kitchen.
It's all good.
Behind the kitchen.
Yeah, I have to make a couple changes to the charts, Hugo, to be able to do that properly. So, but yeah, the data is all there. We can easily do it. It's just, I know this is the particular chart you're probably going to want to look at. Total variance by the default is for this chart is year to date, but I can update that so that you can be able to very easily be able to see that.
Okay. I think we got all the business in the town and Okotoks covered, everybody who's on here. Any questions for Phil? Any reactions to what you're seeing? Like, any feedback? It's quiet. Does everybody fell asleep? Or is it...
Wow, this is amazing. I think Phil just did such a good job with his demo that there are no questions.
I have a comment. Get it started. I'm on the Economic Development Committee for Black Diamond and Turner Valley. And so this information, the most popular visited municipalities or towns, we are sucking in comparison to Okotoks, Nanton, and High River. And I had no idea. So this is really good information to bring back to my committee so we can focus our efforts. We thought we were better than Nanton. We did.
I would just echo as well what Veronica's just said, is that a lot of information would be very, for the town of Okotoks, just in our marketing strategy, and it, it's really amazing what kind of information that you can. I see that it'd probably be a little bit of a learning curve just to figure out what you're trying to see and how to see it, but yeah, it looks really good.
Yeah, and we do actually have training tools and a training program that's been prepared as well. And so we will, as an association, we will help businesses and the towns individually, as well as collectively to in groups to learn, basically to show you and coach you and mentor you how to use this.
This is Rowan from the Best Western. So I think it's very intriguing, the data that you're able to put together, and it's interesting to see how many people are actually staying in the local area when they come. So obviously from a hotel perspective, we want heads and beds. So, to be able to collaborate with the businesses and see the actual results is kind of amazing at that level of detail.
Great. Yeah. Yeah, they see the huge kudos to Hugo for envisioning this. The the granular level of insights that are being provided, whether it be a municipality or a tourism business, you're the only region in Alberta that has this. No other region is even close, to be perfectly honest, to equipping their municipalities and their tourism business with this type of information. So big pat on the back from our perspective to Hugo for showing the leadership and vision that quite honestly we'd like to see from more tourism destinations around not only Alberta and Canada, but so yeah, you guys are really on the forefront of having access to this type of data. It's not common. So hopefully that you'll get a lot of use out of it. And as Hugo mentioned, yeah, there's a training program to ensure that not only you know how to use it, but invariably you'll have questions as you start using it. It's like, can you help me better understand this or whatever, or help me interpret this? So we want at the end of the day you get the most value out of this as humanly possible, especially as you're navigating these uncertain times.
And the whole program did come together because of a big grant from Western Diversification Fund that ultimately made this happen. They're looking at this, and Travel Alberta is very closely following what we're going to do with this and how this is going to impact the region and the businesses as well. Because if this is really successful for the Foothills region, then they actually plan to roll this out throughout Alberta, or they will consider, rolling it out throughout Alberta. Let's put it this way.
Yep.
All right.
I have a question, Hugo. Who are you envisioning is going to have access to this platform?
So basically, all of the towns will have access to the platform. The platform is integrated into our membership platform and dashboard at Foothills Tourism. So every business who we market which is more than 280 businesses in the region, will have direct access to through their dashboard to this platform. And then and so all the towns will have access to it, and then as an association we'll have access to basically the whole lot of it.
Okay, thank you.
So as a town, you can also look at the individual businesses in your town, so you can see which ones would collaborate best, or the businesses in the town could also look at, what's the traffic that comes to Okotoks. Like if for instance their sample size would be too small for the individual business, they could actually learn from what the region actually attracts and base their marketing efforts and advertising efforts based, on that information.
Yep. Okay, sounds good.
Any other questions or comments?
Do businesses outside of our region, will they have access to this?
No, they will not.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yeah, this is only for it's only for members basically of Foothills Tourism, given the fact that at this point we are still running at a free membership status because of COVID and the support we want to provide to community and economic development in the area. For the time being, that is not changing. So I don't know when the board will decide that there might be a minimal fee that we're going to ask for membership, which I could imagine sometime next year. But at this point, everybody has access to this without any cost at all. Like ultimately, our goal is in as much that, at some point we do need membership fees to stay sustainable. At this point, we're still fine. And our goal is really to help and drive the economic growth in the region.
I had one more question, Hugo. This information here, is this all live? Like there's not updates at certain times, or how does that work?
Phil, can you basically comment on that? Is it monthly that it updates?
James, I'll point to you for that one. Each destination has a slightly different cadence in terms of when the data is updated, but
yeah, so it'll be updated monthly.
Monthly.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you.
All right. So typically, this is the type of data and information that actually big corporations like, an Amazon or a Walmart or, big hotel corporations, they have access to data like this and use that to, because it's not only for your marketing program, it is also, it will, just by understanding the visitor better, you'll be able to tailor the, and refine the experience that the visitor has in the region better as well. And so by combining all of, everybody in the region together, and basically working together as such, as a coalition, we can actually, tap into such data directly as well and make it available to small and medium-sized businesses. If there's no further questions, then I am going to conclude the meeting with this, the demonstration. I would like to ask again if for the businesses that were present, can we, and Lori from you as well, can we get some type of a quote or something in terms of what this can do for you and whether it's valuable or not, so that we can include that in our press release. And we will, Rowan will probably by the end of the day, we will have a press release ready that we'll send to you as well. It might be Monday.
Hugo, when did you want that by?
The sooner the better. As soon as I have those, the faster the press release will go out.
Okay, would Tuesday be okay? I just don't know by management. I have to run things
Oh
through,
yeah,
right?
of course. It's Thanksgiving weekend.
Yeah.
Let me roll that question to Rowan. If we get you a press release by Tuesday morning or by Tuesday noon, would that be soon enough to still get in the paper?
Oh, I don't think you want that answer from me. Because I'm with the hotel.
Oh,
So-
sorry. Sorry, I thought, where's the Western Wheel here?
They aren't. They didn't come on the call.
Oh, sorry. Sorry.
I'd love to have that answer for you, but I don't.
All right, missed that. Anyway, I think, Lori, is there any way we can actually get it today from everyone?
Yeah, what I'll do is I'll reach out to Colleen. I'll do my best to get it today for you. Okay.
Okay, I would appreciate that. Thank you.
Hey, Hugo?
And then, yeah, should we, Rowan, would you like to look at some of the data for your hotel as well before we sign off, or did you have enough?
I would, sure.
Yeah,
I would.
Bill, can we look at Best Western, right?
Yes.
Of course.
And Okotoks? Yeah. Thank you.
All right, let's go. I'm assuming this is it.
Yes.
All right. Do you want to look all time, or do you want to look at a specific year or date range?
It can be all time. That's fine.
Okay. Okay.
Or like this year compared to last year.
Yeah, well, we can see down here, like all the comparisons here. So so we're looking at in terms of the overall number of tourists that were sampled, again, a proxy for visitation, not unsurprising, probably a little bit lower in August than last year. In terms of the total volume, it looks like you're down 21% of, again, sampled mobile tourists or mobile devices that came to in August. In terms of average dwell time and hours, looks like, again, for your regional tourists, it looks like it's varied a fair bit over time, but we see, looks like your regional tourists are staying a little bit longer. Of course, obviously, as tourists are farther away, you see international and US tourists are spending a bit more time. But the bulk of the tourists looks like they're between 12 and 48 hours, which is a couple nights stay, which would make sense.
Mm-hmm.
Looking at average distance traveled, it looks like from a regional perspective, 5 kilometers, but Calgary tourists looks like it's pretty consistent over the years, or approximately your Calgary tourists are about 31 kilometers away, and your Alberta tourists are around 230 kilometers that are typical distance travel. And that hasn't changed a ton. Mind you, did see a spike in June 2020, where it looks like people were traveling a fair bit more. So again, zoom in on that. we're seeing, yeah, of some of the travelers sampled in June. You're seeing a little bit of a spike, but more or less the same. It's been pretty consistent over the years. In terms of popular times to visit, let's go take a look. Oh, let's go back here. Popular times to visit. Let's go. A little more consistent throughout the year, which is not necessarily a bad thing. What we have seen looks like a spike in terms of the sampled travelers, in terms of the little bit more popular in August this year compared to years before. And then popular arrival times and departure times, again, a little bit more consistent compared to some attractions, but again, it looks like Friday and Saturdays are popular arrival times, which again makes a ton of sense. And then popular arrival times of the day. Not surprising, people are arriving in the evenings or mid-afternoon on Saturdays, and then looks like more checking out early Sunday mornings, which again would totally probably coincides with checkout times, which makes sense. And then you could flip through various particular dates if you had something going on at a particular date range at a certain point in history. Go to some current, looks like January 11th, 2020, there's a slight influx of travelers during that particular period. And again, you go to some more recent times, looks like, yeah, as recently as August 21st, last Saturday, you saw a slight increase in visitation. In terms of where your travelers are coming from. Yeah, looks like 97% of your travelers are coming from Canada, and then of that from Alberta. Again, let's drill down into Alberta. Again, the regional audience might be super useful. And again, you're getting some locals as well, but let's dive into Calgary specifically. And we'll see your breakdown of your Calgary visitors, whether it be the Calgary Metropolitan or Calgary, Airdrie, Okotoks, Rocky View County, et cetera, broken down. And then again, very, very specific to the postal code. And it looks like your T2X postal code is where the bulk of your travelers are coming from. And in terms of your US demographic, again, there'll be the same thing for Canada. Let's go for, again, get a better picture of who your US travelers are. Give it a second. Filter down. Looks like actually it looks like you're, in terms of your per capita, your median per capita, your higher yield travelers are coming from the sample size isn't that big, but you're getting some higher yield travelers from looks like South Carolina and Wisconsin area. And household income, again, broken down, again, get very, very granular. So for example, you're participating in some of the international, whether it's through Destination Canada or Travel Alberta, some of your international markets that they target specific states. You can see again, sample size isn't probably quite great enough here, but you can start to get a sense for parts of California in this particular case, where your higher yield travelers or higher yield households are coming from.
So where does this data come from? It's from cell phone usage, but you don't track everyone. You like everyone's not tracked. It's just selected.
Yeah.
Because you keep saying sample size, so it's a sample, obviously. So.
Yeah, we use the term sample to just because you don't want to equate the total number of samples to. So think of this the best way. James probably explains this the best, but it's traditionally a way of assessing this type of information. Where you're coming from, how long you're staying, how much you're going to spend, that type of stuff was traditionally done through very expensive surveys. So obviously, being able to sample all your visitors from all the countries, all times of the year, all times of the day through a survey that's not even, it's not feasible, but I can't even imagine what the cost would be. But ultimately, when you use your phone and you're using a weather app or Google Maps or whatever it happens to be, you'll quite often see a pop-up on your phone is, do you want to share your information with this app?
Oh.
When you click yes, that is the data that's ultimately aggregated and used. We're using it within the context of tourism, but different industries would use that same mobile location data for different things. Police services use it. Healthcare service providers use it. Retail uses a ton of it. to try to understand how people are moving. Starbucks uses it a lot, for example, to understand where travelers are coming from to visit their various retail locations. So ultimately, if there's a bulk of travelers coming from a particular jurisdiction, maybe that's an underserviced, that's a good location for a new Starbucks, for example. So the reason why we use sample is not every traveler is going to say, yes, please share my information. And not every traveler is going to have their cell phone on at any given time. Obviously, regionally, we probably never turn our phones off when we're traveling locally. But if you were traveling to say the Tourism France was using the same mobile location data, when you're visiting France, you're probably not going to have your cell phone on 24/7 just because you don't want to incur those high cell phone rates. So not every traveler is going to be measured. That's why we use the term sample as opposed to exact number of travelers.
No, that makes sense. So if you, some people just keep it on all the time, right? When they use Google Maps, they keep the location tracking
exactly.
on.
Yeah, and generally, as long as your sample size and whenever you hover over top each of these particular charts, we always show, like in this particular case, for people visiting Best Western and arriving on Friday, we always show the sample size number. So in this case, there was 421 people sampled that were visiting on Friday. As long as it's a statistically relevant volume, you can be rest assured it's fairly accurate. But ultimately, if this number showed there was only 3 people sampled, you know what I mean? Like, you probably can't take that to the bank, if you know what I mean, right?
No, absolutely. And I think it's great because if you have 35 to 40% of the people staying in hotels when they come to the local area, and it allows you to target other postal codes with stay in place, for example.
You got it.
Well, 40% of the people are going to stay in the hotels, so then they're going to be looking for things to do. And I think we need to figure out a way as a tourism association to capture the market and be able to promote that segment. So
you got it. Yeah. Ultimately, yeah, you want the people that are going to spend the most and stay the longest, of course, right? And then visit and visit more often, right? So you're absolutely right. And that's where you can start to use this information. And again, super useful for whether it be the tourism business, the municipalities in their own marketing or their destination management or tourism experience management efforts, but also from the region's perspective, a super useful tool for them to really target and focus their efforts on, again, attracting the right travelers who are going to spend the most and stay the longest.
Yeah, that's interesting.
So you're hitting it exactly right, Joanne. Like, this is and that's why the data is also, or the visitor information is also available. So for other businesses, like, you can look at as a member, you'll be able to look at Spirit Hills and see what my visitor information is, because it doesn't really, these are not absolute numbers. So nobody really gets to see necessarily what your revenues are or whatever. But what you do get to see is where there's similarities with, which other business has actually a similar customer profile than the one that I'm looking for, or than the one that stays with us, and how can I market to that business, how can I market to that traveler, or can we do packages together? And so that's the kind of stuff that Rove Marketing has seen and has seen very successful package development with and things in New York State, where they've used this. And so it really helps the businesses work together to see where the overlaps, how can we collaborate, and ultimately, in a time like today, where everybody's business model, I'm sure every business, every tourism-related business is under stress. That when a business is under stress, your marketing dollars are going to get under scrutiny. And so having tools like this to really optimize those marketing dollars and making sure that you target them to the right customer so that you can convert that into a bet becomes ever more important.
No, absolutely.
Any other questions, comments from anyone? All right. Good. Then so we'll launch as soon as I have all the quotes in, we will get the press release out, hopefully by the end of today still. so that we can get that in next week's local media, and then we will start contacting the businesses. We also have a flyer ready or little leaflet ready that goes out to all the businesses. So I would say spread the word. We're definitely going to count on all the towns and the municipalities to help spread the word to the businesses as well, and the Chamber of Commerce's, so that we can have people, start, applying and using this and roll out the training we have ready for this. All right. Thanks everyone.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Thank you.